Earlier in this unit, we looked at word problems where we had exponential equations that we needed to solve. Now we're going to look at logarithmic equations that we need to solve. So this is not anything that's going to be a huge deal. The great thing about these problems is that they give you the equation. And anytime I get a word problem that gives me an equation, I'm always happy because it means all I really have to do is find the number that they gave me and plug it into the appropriate spot. Okay, so it's really common to see these kinds of problems in like your SAT. And it's a pretty easy way of doing it. So I'm going to kind of go through here, and sort of what I do is I sort of almost jump to wherever the number is that they gave me. So they gave me this equation, and then they're telling me that the slope of the beach is this number. So now I'm going to go through, and as I read it, I'm going to pay attention to what letter did they tell me stands for the slope of the beach, right? And it says the slope S of a beach. Great. So that right there tells me I am most likely plugging that into this equation for S and solving. But now I'm going to actually read it. So the slope of the beach is related to the diameter of the sand particles on the beach, which makes sense. Kind of cool. Not something I've ever thought about. And this is the equation. We're going to find the average diameter. So the average diameter, that's what I said D was. So we're going to solve for D, right, of the sand particles. Yeah. So all I have to do is plug that number in for us. So my equation is going to be 0.088 equals 0.159. Got to make sure that's in the right spot. Plus 0.118 times the log of D, and that's what we're solving for. All right, so we're going to solve this equation. We need to isolate this log. So I'm going to start by subtracting this guy from both sides. So I have 0.088, and I'm going to subtract 0.159. And great. So that's negative 0.071 equals this 0.118 log D. Okay, that's multiplication. So to get it by itself, I have to divide both sides. So I'm going to take that and divide it by that 0.118, which is that. Great. So it's about negative 0.602-ish. All right, and then from here, I need to solve this equation. So solving this equation, I'm going to convert it into exponent form. So the little number becomes the big number. So remember, if there's no number written, we assume it's a base 10. So little number becomes the big number. Number on the outside wants a friend. And the number in the middle, which in this case is the number at the end, right, wants to be left alone. So I need to take this number and I need to do 10 raised to that answer. And it works out to about 0.25. It says round to 2 decimal places. So yep. So it's going to be 0.25. And we wanted the average diameter in millimeters. So 0.25 millimeters. And there we go. That is our answer to that problem. So like I said, as long as they give you the equation, they are usually not bad to do. So this next one, right, I see there's an equation at the very end. Here's my 66, right? Shoulder height is 66 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and kind of read through the problem. So the antler spread in inches and the shoulder height in inches. So shoulder height, that's what they said that we were looking for. So I'm guessing that this number is going to be H. Okay, so the antler spread and the shoulder height of an adult male elk can be approximated by this equation. So there's a relationship between how big the antlers are and how big the elk is, I guess. All right, so we're going to look at the connection between the two of them. All right, we want to find the antler spread whose shoulder height is this. So I'm going to plug this number in for H. So it's going to be 66 equals 116 times the log of A plus 40 minus 176. Be really careful. Sometimes I find students will drop the number at the end, like they get to the log part and they just don't notice that the equation continues. So just be careful about that. All right, so solving this, I'm going to start by adding this to both sides, and then we'll divide by the 116 to get the log by itself, right? So I'm going to have 66 plus 176, right? And I'll divide that by 116 just so I have the numbers handy. So that's going to be, let's see, 242 equals 116 times the log of A plus 40. And then when I divided, it was 2.09-ish equals the log of A plus 40. All right, and again, from here, I'm going to convert this into exponent form. So little number becomes a big number, number on the outside wants a friend, and then the stuff in the middle wants to be left alone. So I need to do 10 raised to that answer. Okay, and like we've been doing all year, don't do 10 raised to the 2.09. Don't round the number, use the exact answer. Okay. All right, so that gives us this 121, and then obviously I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides. So I'll go ahead and do that. So subtract 40, and it works out to about, to the nearest inch, 82 inches. Right, problem said the nearest inch. So about 82 inches. So, right, the shoulder height is 66 inches, and this is the antler spread, right? So when you compare how tall they are to the shoulder versus how wide they are, they're wider than they are tall, pretty significantly, right? That's kind of a big difference there. So that's sort of interesting. All right, next one, tornadoes. So most tornadoes last less than an hour and travel less than 20 miles. Wind speed, okay, let me preview at the end. I'm looking at tornado covered 22 miles. So the wind speed in miles per hour near the center of the tornado is related to the distance that it travels. So I'm thinking that it covered 22 miles. That's going to be D. Okay, and we got this equation right here. We're going to approximate the speed, which would be S, okay, given that it covered that far. So this time I'm going to have S equals, and it's 93 times the log of 22 plus 65. And hey, that's pretty convenient, right? Because this doesn't actually require much from me. Because all I have to do, right? This stuff is all number. So I can just throw that all into my calculator in one go. So that's pretty nice. So it's 93 times the log of 22. Make sure you close those parentheses, and then plus 65. And let's see, rounded to the nearest whole number. That is 190. So the speed is 190 miles per hour. So that problem was even easier than the last ones. All right, last one. What is the pH of a solution whose concentration of hydrogen ions is this? Okay, great. We've got a formula for pH, which is this lovely thing, where H plus is the hydrogen ion concentration in moles per liter, okay? So when they tell you that the hydrogen concentration of hydrogen ions, so this right here, that is what this H plus is. Okay, so it's a little bit of an unusual variable because usually our variables are just one letter. But since that's what it's defining it as, all I'm going to do is swap that out for this number. Okay, and pH, right, in this case is acting, again, this one, just like the last, how this one's sort of weird, this is acting as one variable. It's not P times H, it's just representing one particular thing. Okay, so that equals negative log of, and this is where I'm going to plug this 3.2 times 10 to the negative fifth in. Okay, and then just like the last problem, this is all number, so I can just pop this in my calculator. So I'm going to do negative log, and it's 3.2 times 10 to the negative fifth, like so. Okay, so then rounded to the nearest tenth, that would be 4.5 is my pH of this particular thing. And then there we go, that's it. Okay, so log word problems, not too bad, right? Isolate the log and then convert it, and you should be golden.